Hello everyone, my name is Ian and you're watching Big Rock Moto. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new here and you like this kind of content, I hope you'll consider subscribing. In today's video, I am taking the first ride on my completely bone stock 2024 Kawasaki KLX300 dual sport. So if you missed my first episode in the series, I talked about why I purchased it. I looked at all the specs and features of the bike. We took a look at that. So I'll link that below. Make sure you don't miss that episode. But today's episode, we are actually going to get out on this beautiful late fall day where it's very warm here in Southern California. It's actually about 70 degrees even here in the mountains. And we're going to go ride this bike. So we're going to do some road. We're going to do some fire road or two track. And we're going to do some single track. Now, because I don't have the bike built out, I don't have good tires, I don't have a skid plate, I don't have, the upgrades that I wanted to do, the protection, things like that. We're not going to do anything too crazy, at least I don't plan on it. I also don't have luggage on here, so I don't have a lot of my tools and stuff that I normally would carry. I do have the basic toolkit and a couple things in the factory little pouch there. So, turn on this other camera here. Grab a drink. I never ride without a hydration pack, so talking about today's gear real quick. Starting at the top, Climb Cryos Pro helmet, the Foamers glasses. I've got MSR ADV Air gloves. For armor, underneath I'm wearing the MSR base layers against my skin. Then I'm wearing the Revit Proteus chest protector, or full upper body armor suit. Over that I'm wearing the Moscow Motor Surveyor jacket. I'm wearing the Woodsman pants. And under the Woodsman pants I've got the Revit Scram knee guards. And I'm wearing MSR Adventure boots. So I think that's about it for the riding gear. Check all that out in the links below. I would greatly appreciate it. Alright, so because I broke the speedometer, and if you watched episode 1, you heard the sad story about why that is. I rigged up my phone here on a quad lock with a RAM arm here, quad lock mount, and I mounted up this little thing so I have a speedometer app, like a little trip meter app, that'll show me my distance, my speedometer, and stuff like that, so that we're safe and we're tracking our miles and all those sorts of good things. So, let's get going. So this is literally the first time I've ridden this bike since I purchased it. It has 0 miles on it. So here we go. Now it's been about 2 years, over 2 years since I rode one of these KLXs. I was very impressed with it when I tested it when it came out. When they updated it to the KLX300, I got one as a test bike. It's one of the first big reviews I did as a full-time motorcycle YouTuber actually, so it's kind of memorable in that way. What strikes me about the KLX is that it's easy to ride, but it still has enough performance in the motor and the suspension and everything like that, and it's still a full-size motorcycle from an ergonomic standpoint. It has enough of all that to satisfy even more experienced riders like myself and still have a place in my garage. The other thing I noticed is the engine, for a single-cylinder engine, it really doesn't have much vibration. So you can see here I'm cruising down the highway at about 60 miles per hour, just under 100 kilometers an hour, and I feel like the tiniest bit of buzz through the foot pegs, through the handlebars, but very little. So I really am impressed with that. I did put on double take mirrors because I broke the factory mirror mount when I tipped it over in the garage, so I did have to do that. That's the only mod, that's the only change that this bike has. I needed to go get gas because I don't know how much gas the dealership put in it. Probably not much is my guess. So we're gonna go do that and then we'll get back out on the road. So regular gas, which is still $4.39 here in California. We don't need to run premium fuel on the KLX. So we're gonna run her 87 because that's all she needs. The fuel tank on here is super small, so I just like to have a full tank. It's only about 2 gallons of fuel. Okay, it did take a gallon, so they only had 1 gallon in it. Don't really want to ride around with just 1 gallon of gas. It just doesn't seem right. Fuel cap's super easy to use. That's good. Alright, let's do a little acceleration and braking here. Full power. 40, 48, 55. You know, yeah, getting up to highway speed about 60 miles an hour on this road anyway, about 100 kilometers an hour, really no problem on the KLX. Now if you hit a big hill and you're like going uphill and you have wind, then you start to struggle with only about 24 horsepower, right? It's a small engine. But cruising here at 65 miles an hour GPS speed, actual speed, really there's very little vibration. This is a comfortable speed for this bike to do with the factory gearing, factory setup and everything like that. 65 is comfortable. 70 starts to be pushing it and you don't really have much throttle left after about 70 miles per hour, whatever that is in kilometers, I forget, but I'll put that below. So some things that set this bike apart from, like, why would you get this and not like a Honda 450 or a KTM 500 or 350? Well, one is cost, two is seat height, three is maintenance, much less maintenance on these, longer oil change intervals. This is like a street bike engine, you know, more so than it is a dirt bike engine or a race engine. So you don't have those tight maintenance intervals. Also, highway comfort. I mean, this is so much smoother than a KTM 350 or 500 or Husky or Beta or any of those. Out on a highway, I'm telling you, this thing is just dramatically smoother than those. And that makes a big difference. If you're going to do more dual sport rides, all-day rides, maybe more kind of dual sport touring or like BDR kind of rides, maybe light adventure travel, this does make more sense to me than something like a KTM, you know, 350 or 500, because of the maintenance, because of the highway comfort and the less vibration. Now, you don't have the performance, you don't have the power, but it's actually easier to ride than those bikes. It's just very gentle, very easy to use, and then when you come to a stop, the ground's a lot closer too. So see how the brakes feel. Yeah, there's no ABS, so gotta be careful, but brakes feel just fine, no problems. And then getting back up to speed, you know, it's a small motor, so you got to be willing to rev it out a bit, but it's perfectly adequate. And keep in mind, I'm at 4,500 feet above sea level here. I'll put the whatever that is in meters, but I'm not at sea level, so we're down on power already because of my elevation. All right, let's get this thing on. Should we do single track or fire road? Let's do some dirt roads first. So, you know, a lot of people are going to buy a bike like this to explore two-track Jeep roads and logging roads and whatever you call them in other countries, green lanes, I don't know. This is not a desert race bike to go fly off, you know, fly through the whoops and jumps at 70 miles an hour in Baja. And it's not really like a hardcore, hard enduro or single track kind of woods bike, although you could do a little bit of all that. But I think most people are going to do highway, maybe commuting to work, which is awesome for, and then doing some off-road exploration, which is also good for. The thing that I like about the KLX, it's got good suspension, unlike most of the other budget dual sports. So I'm going to do this test both sitting down and standing up. Now, when I sit down in a dirt, I sit as far forward as I can, and it feels almost kind of unnatural, but sitting far forward allows you to get some pressure into the front tire so that the motorcycle grips on the front and actually steers without washing out. And then if you want to stand up, so I will say the ergonomics are a little bit weird for me for standing. I am changing out the bars, putting on bar risers, and rotating my bars forward a lot more because they're just too far back. The bars are like too far back, they're too close to me. So when I'm standing up, my shoulders or head are in front of my hands, and that's not right. That's not the way it's supposed to be. But anyway, let's not get into that. You know, these tires are surprisingly not that bad. These Dunlop 605s. Actually, not that bad. Not as bad as I thought. Uh-oh. I've got phone issues here. I'll sort that out. Really impressed with how the bike feels so far, though. This is a lot of fun. You know, one of the reasons I love having a bike like this, it's just, I don't want to say I got it to putt around, because that sounds like I'm not being serious about it, but it's kind of true. Like, if I just want to go out for a simple ride and I don't need to go super crazy fast and worry about all that kind of stuff, and I want to go explore trails and do some highway, do some dirt roads, maybe check out some single tracks, and it's quiet so it doesn't disturb anybody, and you can kind of, you know, sneak around if you know what I'm saying. Like up here, I don't know, I've always wondered, oh, there's barbed wire across there. I don't want to ride over the barbed wire. That will not be good. So the nice thing about this bike being a low seat height is that, like, turning around with all these deep ruts and stuff, like, it's really, I can always reach the ground. Really not a problem. You know, this little thing, it's better than I remember. It really truly is. And if the kind of riding that I'm showing right now, if this describes most of your off-road riding, then this probably is the bike you should have, and not an expensive KTM or anything like that. Because you can still ride pretty quick on this. I mean, keep in mind, I've adjusted nothing. I haven't set up the suspension for my weight. I haven't changed the tires. I haven't done any mods to this bike except the mirrors. And it's still great. It's still great. My couple gripes I have. The ergonomics, yeah, I'm gonna have to address those, the handlebars, stuff like that. The other gripe I have is these foot pegs. No, especially when you try to stand up, it's like standing on a pencil, like half of a pencil, not even a whole pencil. So that just doesn't feel good for more than a couple minutes at a time. So we've got to change out those foot pegs, but you know, on most bikes you end up changing foot pegs anyway, so not a big deal. I've already got the pegs actually in the garage. That's why I'm doing this ride today, because I'm antsy to start modifying this thing. I really like this bike. It's just so much fun. It's just the perfect bike for so much types of riding that I like to do. And the fact that you get a bike with adjustable suspension that's actually really good on the trail, even for a 200-pound or 90-kilo rider like myself, it doesn't bottom out constantly. I mean, it's really impressive. It really is impressive. Honestly, you could just buy this bike like it is, factory everything, and just go have the time of your life doing a bunch of dual sport rides on it. I mean, I might suggest putting on a skid plate and hand guards, but really beyond that, I don't see what else you'd really have to do. It doesn't have enough power really to do, like, to carry the front wheel up over obstacles or in the trail or rise in the trail. You can do that a little bit, but it will require some clutch work. But again, this bike is not about being super aggressive and trying to ride like, you know, you're pretending to be a Dakar rally racer. It's not about that. That being said, it performs better. I know there's a group of you who kind of think this is like a girl's bike or a beginner bike, and I don't mean girl's bike in a negative way at all, but that's what you guys are telling me. And I just think that's you just haven't ridden it. You're completely wrong about it. Completely wrong. It is a good, now, is it a good beginner bike for dual sport riding? Yes, it is. I think it's one of the best ones because you have some room to grow into it, right? It's not like a TW200 or maybe a KLX230 where you're going to kind of outgrow the power of the suspension. This bike, even as you become a better, quicker rider, you will still be able to really enjoy it and get a lot of years of use out of it. So, but it's easy to ride for a beginner. It truly is. All right, let's do a little single track. Now, I'm not the world's best enduro rider. I never claimed to be. But, you know, this being a small, relatively lightweight bike, low to the ground, pretty low gearing, gentle power, it actually makes a really good bike to explore your local trails. So, with that in mind, the thing that makes a bike like a KLX really easy to ride on this kind of terrain, so look how slow I'm able to go. I'm just putting along, gentle power. If I need to stop and put a foot down, I can do that. So you don't have to be super aggressive. You don't have to be the world's best rider, you know, to go and explore your trails. That's what's great about a bike like this. The gearing is, I think, pretty good for, you know, a dual sport bike. I think it's low enough. Would it be nice to have a little extra punch at the low RPM? Yeah, and I did order a 13th sprocket to try that, but then the concern is you might be kind of buzzed out on the highway. But if you're going to like sit down and kind of putt along your local trails like this, man, this thing is awesome for this. This is so much fun. I really, really enjoy this kind of riding. Man, it doesn't stall out. It doesn't do anything weird. Let's go this way. See some motorcycle tracks here. Somebody's been here not too long ago. So yeah, first and second gear on this bike, single track, is great. Now I don't have handguards and I don't have a skid plate on the bike right now, so probably should back off if it gets really extreme up here in terms of rocks or anything like that, because you know I have a history of breaking stuff when I drop bikes, so I don't want to break my levers. When I also have a history of punching holes in my engine without having a good skid plate. Have pretty bad luck with this kind of stuff. Pretty rocky, loose hill climb, and really the bike is super confidence inspiring. Imagine how good it's going to be once we get good off-road tires on here. You know, that's going to be really nice. Which one is the trail? I don't know. This one, I guess. I've really missed this kind of riding. I really have missed it. Pretty overgrown trail up here. But see how I can just, like, this is not how a skilled rider rides, you know. They don't ride like with their feet down, like paddling through. But most of us are not skilled riders. That's the point of something like this. Yeehaw, yeah boy. This thing is great. And I have no hesitation to explore and to keep going like I would on a heavier bike. I would never take my adventure bikes on this. It's just too much bike. It's not fun, you know. But on this, I have no problem doing this. And my goal over the next year is to do a lot more dual sport riding because I really, really enjoy it. Now that is the Hill of Doom over here, the Hill of Death. I don't know if we're going to be able to conquer that one. Oh my god, that is like a wall. That looks super sketchy. And the run-up is all these loose boulders. Oh yeah, there's... Alright. Well, now the bike's nearly vertical. I think we'll call it a day. I could get up here, but I don't want to start breaking stuff. I want to get some handguards and a skid plate on this bike. Whoa! Before I do anything too stupid. Oh shit. Come on. Although there's definitely part of me that wants to go up that. I don't think it's a good idea at this point, because I also have to come back down. Okay, well, I kind of wanted to test myself out, so I just went up the Hill of Death. It was pretty sketchy, but I did make it all right. But I was really like burning up the clutch, trying to keep the balance, the traction, and to get up the hill without spinning the tire. But man, it was pretty sketchy. But this is what I'm saying about having a dual sport like this, is it just encourages you to push your boundaries or push your limits, you know. But I did feel like I was abusing the bike a little bit doing that. Let's go down the Hill of Death. And again, this is all about riding skill, and I don't have a lot of it. I mean, I can talk about tires and stuff like that. That does help, but this is a riding skill and confidence issue, not really a bike issue. This is some pretty cool ridgeline single track up here. I can't wait to come back here once I have this bike a little bit better set up. But that being said, even in stock form, I'm able to do all this. I mean, this hill is so radical. I can barely walk up this hill. I've hiked up here before. I can't mountain bike up this. I can't e-bike up it. I can't really walk up it. But somehow, I'm able to take this bike on it. You can see I was skidding coming up it. You can see kind of where my tire was digging in. That right there is about 5 feet deep on the left and the right, so you don't want to get stuck in those. And then you have all these loose rocks here at the bottom. Ooh, I love this bike. KLX for the win. I take the adventure bikes in this wash to test, and that's always a pretty sketchy situation, but honestly, with a little dual sport like this, it's just fun. It's really not scary. You can stand up, let the bike float around. There's not a ton of power. You could use a little more power, but it's adequate. It's got plenty. Even these factory tires really aren't all that bad. Second gear. And see, that's full throttle, so there's not a ton of extra power to give, but you know, there's enough. So I just got home from the ride, and these notes are more for myself than anything, but I figured this would be kind of useful to show. So these are my notes after the first ride of things that I want to do, like in terms of phase one of making this bike a lot better. Change the foot pegs, which I already have. Add the protection, the skid plate, hand guards, stuff like that. Change the tires for more grip. Lower the gearing. I did feel in the sand wash, I ended up riding a long time in that sand wash, up and down, all through there, and I did feel like I could use lower gearing, but that's going to compromise our highway for sure. And number 5 is set up the suspension, especially the sag. So also want to go plus rear comp and rebound. I just feel like it needs a little more in the back, and then set the sag, especially the rear sag, which I think we have to remove the shock to set the preload. Those are my notes. I think if we do those 5 basic things, this bike will be pretty amazing as it is, and then we'll go on to phase 2, which is a whole bunch of other stuff. All right, well, that was an awesome ride. I truly had a fantastic time. I just love a motorcycle like this. It's just the right amount of everything, you know, and you can ride out your driveway, go down the highway, and then hit your favorite trails. What an awesome machine. It's too bad that some countries don't get this bike. So let's talk quickly, just briefly, about comparisons. I'll do a dedicated video to this later, but I'm getting a lot of questions, you know, should I get this or a CRF300L or an XT250 or a DR-Z or CRF450L? So compared to the Honda 300L, it's probably closest competitor. I would personally choose this, and I did. The main reason for that is the suspension is a world different, and ultimately I think that's probably why it's priced higher, about what, around $1,000 more, or 20%, you know, 15-20% more than the CRF. And all that money went into the suspension and the chassis, which is a world different than the CRF. The suspension is downright good, and the CRF is really pretty comically, hilariously bad, including the rally, but also the standard CRF. So that's really nice. Also, now that they've, I think, improved the styling and added a new headlight, I think that gives you a little bit more value, you know, for your money there. Now, compared to a DR-Z, so a DR-Z has more power, more torque, better suspension, more suspension travel. You can ride the DR-Z faster. However, this has 6 speeds, this has fuel injection, this has a much lower seat height. This is easier to ride for most people. It's not too tall, it's not too aggressive, and it starts perfectly with the fuel injection. Overall, I think I prefer riding this. The DR-Z is pretty fun, really capable, but this is just a little bit more I don't know how to describe it, a little bit more approachable, I guess, and I just want to jump on and ride it, as opposed to the DR-Z. I have to commit a little bit more, especially because it's just such a tall bike. This doesn't have that problem. Compared to a CRF450L. So I think if you want the next level up in performance, you could go for that Honda 450, but keep in mind more maintenance, taller seat height, a lot more expensive, things like that. So yeah, that is a good upgrade path. You're also going to, when you buy that bike, then you have to spend, well, probably have to spend another $1,000 to make it run properly, is what most people say. So I can't personally say that because I haven't tested one, but what about compared to, so like this is one step above like a KLX230 or an XT250, or what are the other ones in that class? It's like a segment above those. So I really think this is a good sweet spot. You know, more power, more suspension. Really, I think for $6,000 for a dual sport motorcycle, this is as good as it gets. Right now, this is the best dual sport you can buy for the money in 2024. I'm very serious about that. I really do believe that. So can we make it better for just a few $100, changing a few things, the foot pegs, the tires, adding some protection? Yes. So we'll do the modifications in phases based on cost to kind of see, okay, what's the most bang for the buck? We'll do that. We'll go ride it. Then we'll do another phase of modifications, which is a little more expensive, and see how good that is. So anyway, I hope this first ride was useful. Please consider supporting independent journalism here at Big Rock Moto. If you like what I'm doing, there's ways to do that down below. Thanks for watching. Ride safe, and I'll see you out there.